Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Hired. I am your host, Mike of Spark Recruiting, and we feature a new episode every week where we bring in fantastic guests to speak about the hiring process, the labor market, something to help you hire or be hired. And this week, I am so excited to be joined by my guest, Lindsay. And before I bring her out, I'm humbled, and I don't know why she agreed to be on the show. And let me tell you why. So, Lindsay is the career coach for analytically minded people. Background, insane. She was named to Forbes' the Next 1000 list in 2021. And recently, and we're going to talk about this, she is a best-selling author of her first of many books, I believe, called Right for You. She is unbelievable. She coaches everyone on how to find the perfect job for them. She's going to share some of her wisdom with us today. The thing that our research department here has really grown as the show's taken off. Let me tell you, we have a lot of research that we're able to pull. And I'll leave you with this before I bring Lindsay out. Here's how her clients sum up who she is as a professional, as a coach, as an individual. And I thought that this was perfect before we bring her out. Her positivity and optimism is absolutely contagious, and you're going to experience some of that today. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, my guest, Lindsay Gordon. Lindsay, welcome.
Hi! Oh my goodness, I'm so happy to be here, and thank you for that fun intro.
You know, I'm really underselling our research department. It's really kind of we do a thorough scrub here of Wikipedia and the internet to really find out as much as we can about our guests before we bring
Yeah,
them out.
I have no idea where you found that. So well done, research department. Give those guys a raise.
Don't say that. Now, before we jump into the topics, because it's fresh, congratulations. I believe you're a best-selling author in 2 countries already. The book has not, it's still pre-sale, or is it fully like
It's
where
out
it
there.
is?
It is out there. I cannot believe it is in physical copy, a book that I wrote. So yes, it's on Amazon. If you want to go grab it, you can buy it today.
I will put the link to that at Amazon in the show notes afterwards in the comments. So before we jump into the topic today, just because I'm curious about it, writing is a very vulnerable thing to do, to put your thoughts and words in page and kind of go through that process. In order to do that, I'm sure you have to tap into creative state of flow, I guess, if you will, to kind of be vulnerable enough to allow that. What helps you get in the state of flow? What is there any, like, are you caffeine? Is it a different kind of beverage? Is there something you do that helps you tap that creative state to allow the writing process to take form? And you should get used to answering these questions now that you're a best-selling author, because people are going to want to know your process.
They want to know. The people want to know. Well, first, I just want to say that yes, like the biggest challenge for me in writing a book was the vulnerability it requires of, like sharing my thoughts in a really big way, saying some things that not everyone's going to agree with. I have a pretty bold viewpoint on the world and on jobs. And it is, still, I'm like, it's a little bit nerve-wracking and terrifying to know that people are out there reading my book. And that's what I want in this world, is to be able to share that wisdom and help people feel relief and clarity about their job. So both of those things are true, but it really is a vulnerable experience. For me, I feel like there's like some in the zone music that really helps me. And also working in chunks. So I would write in like 3-hour blocks and just be like, all right, we're going in, we're doing it, and then we're taking a break. And then we're going in and we're doing it, and then we're going for a walk and taking a nap. And I feel like I had like a balance of both of those things that really helped with the flow.
Amazing. And you shared something with me backstage before that you got your first fan mail today.
Yes.
You
Oh
share?
my gosh. I got my first LinkedIn message from somebody who purchased my book. read it, said they couldn't put it down. And they did all the exercises, and now they can articulate, how they feel about their job, and they feel way better about their current situation. So that is everything to me. That is why I do this work. The impact on the individual humans just means everything to me. So that is incredibly special. Oh, thank you.
The
Thank
first of
you.
many, I believe, of messages you're going to receive from people helping you. And again, thank you for being here to speak about this, because I feel like it's very topical as to what's going on. And I think to set the stage before we jump into how we can help individuals identify the perfect job for them, maybe some
Yeah.
context in terms of, in your opinion, how has the labor market changed over the last couple years? Because you've been doing this a long time. So what
Yeah.
change, in your
Yeah.
opinion, has happened? And then maybe if you want to dig into what that means for people looking for a job, and maybe people
Yeah.
hiring for those jobs based on that change. I know it's a big question, so
Yeah.
I'm going to give you the big screen here and let you have at it.
Mhm. All right, so let's talk about a couple of things. I think the first thing that stands out to me is that some of the old ways of doing things just don't work anymore, and we're seeing that kind of come out more and more. So things like treating the interview as a one-way street, where the job searcher just does everything they can to win the job, and then they get into it and they're like, "Hold on, do I actually want this job? Or was I just playing this weird game where I did everything I could to land it?" So, one of the pieces I think that's hard there is job searchers not knowing what they want. And so then they are just following external definitions of success of like, oh, of course I should want this job. Of course I should win this job. And then getting in it and not feeling satisfied. Another thing that I saw a lot, especially at beginning of pandemic, was a real focus on contribution. I think there was a moment where people had this clarifying feeling of, we only have one life. We don't know how long it is. And is this work the contribution that I want to be doing? And so it really just made it incredibly clear to think about, where do I want my passion and purpose and meaning to come from? And for some of us, that will be our job. And for others of us, that will not be our job. And we need to be okay with that. We need to be making space for, people in both categories. I think another thing that stands out to me is this shifting definition of success and fulfillment. So, perks, not really cutting it as far as fulfillment. Cultures without humanity, not working for people. Being expected to show up and work like a machine and leave the life part of you, at the door, that's not really working for people. So that's why I love, the work that you do of bringing the humanity. We are all humans in the workplace, and we need to be treating people like that. And maybe the last thing is, seekers kind of waking up to the power that they have to say, no, I actually really choose a culture that treats me like this. I really choose a company that has a commitment to anti-racism and is walking that journey. I choose to interview the company in the job search process to see if it's right for me. So I think we're seeing more of a balance instead of the company is just like, of course you want to work here and of course you want to win this job. So those are a couple of things that stand out to me. And let's talk about kind of candidate addressing this and hiring manager addressing this. So for the job seeker, number one, and this is everything that this book is about, is get clear about what is right for you. The more that you can understand, these are my values, these are the strengths that I want to bring, this is the environment I need in order to thrive, the more you can communicate that whether that is to your manager, whether that is in an interview, and that will help you figure out the fit. So that's always, step number one, get to know yourself as much as possible. Then, because I'm an engineer and because I have like this practical lens on everything, I'm like, okay, once we build the framework of what's right for you, then we apply it. We look at every opportunity that comes across your lap or that you're thinking about applying to, and you go through the checklist. How do I think this job will stack up against my values? How do I think this job will stack up against the working conditions that I need? And if they're not matching up, say a no quickly and save your precious time and energy, right? So instead of just like, okay, well, I'll just apply to everything and I'll, spread myself thin. Nope, you get to have a really high bar for if an opportunity doesn't look like it's going to align with this framework that you've built, you get to say, thanks so much. This is actually not the right fit for me. And then shift your energy to the opportunities that feel like they're going to be a really good fit. And then the last thing for job seekers, we have to see the interview as a two-way street. I love to joke that I need to warn anyone who is going to interview my clients because they're going to be grilled. They are going to be grilled about the values of the company and how it aligns with my job seekers' values. They're going to be grilled about, the working conditions that people know that they need. What is their company culture and how does that align? So I just love like that surprise that people get where they're like, oh, I am also being assessed in this, because everybody gets to choose, is this opportunity right for me? It's not just I need to do everything to make sure that the employer is choosing me. So that's for job seeker.
Before we jump into time
in.
management, I have a question because I was like,
Yeah.
so many things. Is there exercises that you put your clients through? And when we say clients, we talk about candidates in this instance looking for a new job that help them uncover what those values are and how they can explore identifying that inwardly for themselves. Because a lot of the times we talk about identify your values and like, sure, but like, what does that mean? And how do we actually go through that exercise internally to figure out what matters the most to us?
Yes, this is such a good question. And luckily it's in the book. I feel like there are so many values exercise where it's like, look at this overwhelming list of values and choose the ones you think. And then you're just like, oh my gosh, you're like, I probably should have community. I probably should have growth. And then you get like this list of should values and you're like, okay, that was not helpful. So the way I love to do it is to kind of the data driven approach of what decisions have you made in your life so far, and what can we tell about your motivations behind that decision? So I have candidates, make a list, maybe 7 to 10 decisions that they've made in their life, and then look at what was I craving as I made that decision? What was I trying to move away from? What didn't work for me about the status quo? And as you write out those motivations, there are going to be words that pop up that's like, I wanted to be closer to community, or I felt like I couldn't prioritize my health. And then we've tricked you into revealing all your values. And then you just go collect them from all the motivations and see, like this is how my actions have said I am living my life. How does that feel when I see this list of values? Do I choose those? Are there different ones that I had hoped would show up? And then good news, we make the rules around here. So you just add whatever values you want to that list, but it gives you a way to look at the way that you've lived life so far to check in with those values.
I love that exercise, and I'm glad you brought up the list because that's usually what people do is like, here's a list, circle the 3 that identify you the most. And you're like, well, now I'm a bad person if I don't circle these, so you judge yourself for, and you think about what you should be valuing instead of that extra. So that was great. And then I love what you're saying about in the interview, now that we're clear on the values, when you get to that point, making sure that the organization meets those values.
Yeah.
Is there a disconnect you find between the organization and the actual individual they would be working for? And how do you direct
Hmm.
your clients to ask those questions to make sure that the individual they have embodies those values and they're not just regurgitating the company credo to say like,
Mhm.
yes, we're an organization that, values diversity. It's like,
Mhm.
do you coach them in terms of like how they dig into that to know the individual and how they feel about that at all?
Yeah, we try to do our best. And, sometimes it is the case that people are just saying things and then reality is different. So I'm not quite sure how we remove all of that, but I think there is a way to ask questions. And one of the ways, there's an article that I like to send to people that's about like, ask people about the stories. So tell me about a time when this value was prioritized. Tell me about a time when you supported one of your employees to do what was right for them when it went against the company policies or something. Tell me about a time when you really prioritized supporting a new manager and giving them the training that they needed. So I think stories can sometimes bypass like the here's the company line and this is what I've been taught to say. I think that's one. And then second, the way that I coach my folks to ask questions is we want to get very specific and direct with our questions. So it's like, okay, if your value is growth, that's just a buzzword that could mean a million different things to a million different people. So let's get you clear. What does growth look like for you? And let's write that out. It looks like having access to dollars that allow me to sign up for courses. It looks like having a mentor that is invested in my growth, whatever it is. So get really clear. And then you can start to ask questions that are that clear. And the way that I love to have people ask questions is I know that I thrive when XYZ. So I know that I thrive when I am in an environment that prioritizes growth. And for me, that looks like this, that, and the other. Can you tell me about how that shows up in this company? Can you tell me about how that shows up in this role? So it's like very specific because otherwise, if you say, I want growth, and they're like, great, we make sure you get promoted up to this direction. And you're like, oh, well, that's not the growth that's meaningful to me. We're talking past each other. We're on completely different pages as to what growth means. So that's why we need to get really, really, really specific about the things that are going to be important to us in the job.
I love that direction on stories, kind
Yeah.
of give you a real sense and kind of avoid generic terms.
Yeah.
And the way you framed up that question is amazing because you're saying it from a space of like what you need, and then
Yeah.
you're asking your future employer to tell me a story about why
Yeah.
this is the environment that I can thrive in. So I love how you're empowering your clients and candidates in this job process. And
Yeah.
I think, as we've talked before, like the market changed and there is a power dynamic shift where candidates do have more control in the process now, but they need to know how to use it. And I love what you're doing of
Yeah.
like giving them confidence and giving them structure around doing this and finding the perfect job for them. Now, on that, do you find as you've been working, especially we'll call it over the last couple of years, that
Yeah.
there appears to be common obstacles or challenges that get in people's way of finding the perfect job for them?
Oh, yes. There are many. I will just mention a couple. So, number one is keeping every door open. And this is the fastest way to exhaust yourself. So, again, I talk about easy yes, easy no. We build the framework, we use it as a cheat sheet, And then we actually close doors that are not right for us. And we do that quickly and we do that thoughtfully. It doesn't mean, oh God, this job is terrible for me and I'm never going to talk to this person again, but you get to be kind about it. But I want you to be containing or like saving the precious energy that is required for a job search. And so have that really high bar, close the doors that are not actually good for you. Because sometimes people will come to me and say, I could do anything. Everything looks interesting to me. And I'm like, that when we use the checklist, when we use the cheat sheet, that is not true. There are things that just aren't going to be right for you. So the more that we can close those doors. Number two is making choices based on what other people think. And I want to give a lot of kindness and grace for this. So there's no blame in this. We are in a society where there is a lot of pressure about what work should mean to you, about what jobs you should want. You might get pressure from your cultural context. You might get pressure from your friends and family who only want what's best for you, but don't actually know what that thing is that's right for you. You may be, experiencing systemic barriers like racism, sexism, ageism, ableism that tell you what is acceptable for you. And, so there are a lot of things that get in the way of doing what's right for you and making choices based on what you need. So the more that we can be aware of that, like what is the noise that I feel? What are the unique pressures that I feel? How do I just notice them, hopefully set them a little to the side and start really looking at what do I want? And I like to play a game with clients, and this is in the book too, called Pressures Bingo, which is I read you the top 10 pressures that I have heard over and over and over and over and over and over again for years and years. And you get to see, how many of these have been given to me? How many of these do I feel just because they are in the societal soup that we are swimming in? So lots of kindness and grace, because it's not actually easy for a lot of us to do what's right for us. And the more that we can make choices separate from other people's opinions, that is going to be get you good results. And then the third thing is saying what you want, what you think the interviewer wants to hear. So I've had so many conversations with clients that are like, yes, I have like memorized the answers that I want to say. And I'm just basically saying things that I think they want to hear. Again, we go back to that kind of framework of I just need to win the job. It's not about whether I want it, it's about landing it. And so I will say whatever I want, and then I will get the job and I will feel extremely hollow and confused about why I don't feel fulfilled. So again, this is how we have been taught to do the job search, right? Prep beforehand, memorize those answers, have the shiny answer for whatever it is. But I want us to be having more real conversations about this is what I know I want. I want to do my best work. Is this going to be a role and environment where I get to do my best work? If not, I don't think either of us want us to land this job. So lots of kindness, compassion, but would love to kind of create the conditions for a new framework of the job search.
I love that. It reminds me of a story that I had just recently of, and this is about winning the interview. And I get this all the time where, I'm representing a client, they're hiring for someone, and before an interview, they call me and say, what kind of questions are they going to ask? And it's like, why are you trying to win the interview? Like, you can win the interview is be yourself. If you authentically reflect who you are in that interview, you've won. And then if they don't go with you, then it's not the right environment for you. It's not that you lost the interview because you gave the wrong answers. It's not the right fit for you or not the right time. But there's these obviously big tech companies, and I don't want to name anyone, but like that have all these, intense questions about like how you think and, how many golf balls can you fit in a Volkswagen, or, you had to, and there was one where it was like, if you had to market a time machine or something like this, where would you start, or something along those lines. And
Yeah.
the ironic thing was there were YouTube videos on how to answer that question. So it was like, it was like, if
Not
the
actually.
interviewers, you're
Yes.
not actually getting, and the purpose of
Yeah.
that question is you want to understand how people think about something, their thought process. But like now people know that they can just go and steal answers to regurgitate and win. So on that, and I know we're kind of running short of time, but
Yeah.
if you were to flip it and help hiring managers now, knowing that the market's shifting, knowing that the new age of candidate is empowered and looking for things, how would you coach them on how to attract and assess talent?
Yeah. I think number one would be share more of what makes you unique outside of the traditional definitions of success. So, yes, of course, we're going to have title, responsibility, pay, that kind of thing. But what are your values as a company? What is your humanity that you want to put out there to attract the job seekers who are looking for companies with humanity? So, tell those stories, be a human, because actually company is just a collection of humans. So I think that's probably one of the first things that I would say. The second is see if you can help people know what they actually want. Ask them interesting questions that help them reflect and help you both understand, is this going to be the right fit? And kind of going further on that is encouraging people to assess you as well. So if you say, I'm so excited to connect with you in this interview. I am committed to fit and I want to make sure that yes, I'm trying to see if you're the right fit for the company, but I also would love for you to be thinking about, is this company the right fit for me? And let's have a great conversation about that. I remember when I went to a very small engineering school, and you get kind of like to step one of the process and you get to candidates weekend and you go on site and get to test out. You do some engineering challenges, you meet the people. And I remember how often they said, yes, we are assessing you, but we also want you to be assessing us. Like, this is really important to us. And that was just a consistent message throughout the weekend. And it has always stuck with me as how thoughtful that is, and feels very forward thinking. But that's how we have the best conversations, because you don't want to land a candidate that doesn't actually want to be there, and the candidate doesn't want to land a job where they're not going to be able to bring their best and contribute in the way they want to. So if you can really seed that in the interview process, I think that will also get you good results.
I think we kicked off this conversation talking about how the writing process is so vulnerable because you're putting yourself out there. And I think more awareness, what you just said, the interview process is also very vulnerable because you're
Yeah.
telling your own personal story of who you are, how you work, and what you value.
Yeah.
And if the individual on the other side is not making you feel comfortable to be your authentic self, and we're both just wearing a mask of like interviewer trying to get the right answers, interviewee trying to give the right answers, we're not actually assessing if there's a real connection and a real fit there. So I love what you said and the advice around the interviewer to disarm and almost like set the tone for the conversation to assess each other. Like let's get this out in the beginning, in the onset. So I love that. I'm going to steal that
Great.
and use it with some of mine for sure. Now I know we've used a lot of your time. I want to give you the space to tell us about your book. Tell us what it's about. We know we can find it on Amazon. And where can people connect with you?
Yeah. So the book is my love letter to anyone who is experiencing indecision about career. And I have a viewpoint that when you are unhappy in your job, your life is on hold. So the book is about getting you off the fence, is about stopping the waffling, helping you be decided about your next steps, whether that's to quit, whether that's to stay, whether that's to take a promotion, whether that's to join a manager track. I want you to be decided in a way that feels so good for you so that you can move forward with your career and also your life. So it will help you structure your thinking, make that decision, and move forward. And I hope it will also help you feel relief, because I hope you can tell, like, I'm really excited about this, just everything about job, and we get to have fun, even though it's a really hard thing, right? Job searching is really hard. Being unhappy in your role is really hard. But if you come on the journey with me, I hope I will bring some levity, some kindness, some grace, so that you can feel way better about your role. So yes, book, you can find it on Amazon. And then if you want to learn more about me and my work, my website is alifeofoptions.com. And then also connect with me on LinkedIn. I love chatting with people. I love meeting people. I love sharing stories about what it actually looks like for people to do what's right for them in their career and the job search. So definitely connect with me there as well.
I think you just gained a new fan. Annette just commented saying that she has to get this book. And I echo that. I mean, Lindsay, you're fantastic. The mission you're doing, I fully support and look forward to continuing to collaborate and work together to empower people in this journey that's extremely vulnerable and helping them really make sense of what they want. Because, you know, like you said, if you're not happy in your job, that shows up in other areas of your life. So, you know, just really respecting people's space and giving them the confidence to be themselves is key. So thank you. We will have to do another episode, because I feel like I'm going to show people, I wrote a list of things that I wanted to chat with Lindsay about, and I'm right here. I'm right here on that list.
That's right. We're just getting started.
We just did too. So like, we're going to have to do another
Stay tuned for part 2. Yep.
But I thank you, and thank you for sharing your insights. I hope everybody got so much out of it, and we will see you next week. Bye.
Thank you so much.